Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be installing a new Trail Tech fan kit on my 2019 KTM 300XC. You can either get it directly from Trail Tech. I actually purchased this through Slavin's Racing, and it is a KTM power part number. This part number is 557-359-41044. This is the fan kit that you would get from Trail Tech, although it is from KTM through Slavin's Racing. Separate part, I don't know if this is a separate part number or not, but this is the wiring harness that you need to wire it to your bike if it doesn't have a harness already. They told me I would need it, so this part number here is KT777-119-79000. I've had this fan kit for a few weeks, but the wiring harness was back ordered for a number of weeks. So overall it doesn't look like a real hard installation, but there are a few things you need to do to get ready, including taking the gas tank off, cleaning the radiator, all the coolant, taking the radiator off, and obviously having your tools ready. So first thing we're going to do is go ahead and get this thing unboxed. Okay, in the box you get a KTM instruction manual. It comes in a bunch of different languages. You get the actual fan kit, which is already pre-mounted on its own bracket. As you can see here, it's got the wiring. This is the thermocouple that will go into the radiator to tell you what the temperature is. And you have an adjustable, either Celsius or Fahrenheit little gauge here, and that actually shows you not only what your temperature is, but you can adjust this to tell the fan at what temperature you want it to kick on. So that's the bulk of what you'll be installing. And then the last thing that you get in this box is a little baggie with some self-tapping screws. Well, they're actually not self-tappers, but they are screws. There's 4 of them, and this will attach to pre-drilled holes in the right side radiator. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and get the gas tank removed, and for that you're going to need a Torx T30. Okay, now that you've got the 4 bolts removed from the front plastics that hold the plastics onto the radiator, you're going to go ahead and remove the seat. You're also going to need a T30 for this with an extension and a ratchet. Okay, now go ahead and remove your seat. Okay, next step here is you're going to go ahead and remove this bolt that holds the center of the gas tank down. You're going to go ahead and remove your vent line for the gas tank. Make sure your fuel petcock is off. Last but not least, go ahead and remove your fuel line from the petcock. Straighten out your wheel and remove your gas tank. Next step, you're going to go ahead and remove the radiator vent line from the frame. Next step, you go ahead and remove your radiator cap. Next step here is draining your coolant. You're going to use a T30 Torx again with a ratchet and an extension. Remove the bottom water bolt pump, or water pump bolt. Go ahead and reinsert your bolt into the water pump. Next step, you're going to remove all the radiator clamps that hold the hoses to the radiator. There's one here on top, there's one here on the bottom, and then there's one here that crosses over, and you're just going to use a Phillips or a flathead screwdriver to do so. Next step, you're going to use a T30 with an extension and a ratchet to remove the 2 bolts that hold the radiator to the frame. Go ahead and remove your radiator guard. Alright, now that you've got your radiator off, you're going to go ahead and take this over to the bench where we're going to install the fan. Alright guys, now I've got my radiator on my makeshift bench because my actual bench is dirty. I'm going to go ahead and get the fan, and with your radiator facing up, you're going to go ahead and place the fan over the radiator. And on the other side there's 2 holes already. So go ahead and get your little baggie of screws here. All 4 of them are identical. Alright, now with your fan lined up on your radiator, you're going to use a T20 Torx and a ratchet here to go ahead and install the bolts onto your radiator. Before I tighten the bolts, I want to make sure that I've got all 4 of them threaded in. Alright, now that you've got all 4 bolts on the fan, you're going to go ahead and open your little bag that comes in the little bag. And this is a thermal compound. And you're going to put this exactly wherever you want to install your actual thermocouple. So I've picked a spot here that I think will work nicely. Now go ahead and insert your thermocouple gently between the fins. You should be able to force that down most of the way with your finger, but you can tap on it a little bit if you have to. Alright, so here's the radiator with the fan. As you can see, there's the 2 bolts on the inside of the radiator and the 2 bolts on the outside of the radiator. And you can see where I've got my thermocouple and thermal compound in relation to the cap. So you're going to go ahead and reinstall this now onto the bike. Okay, now we've got the radiator set to go with the fan installed. We're going to go ahead and reinstall this on the bike. Kind of reverse order of how it came off. Alright, so we're going to start by positioning the radiator and getting the hoses reinstalled onto the radiator. Start with the bottom hose, and then the crossover hose. Alright, now that we've got all the hoses connected, we're going to go ahead and use our Phillips here to go ahead and re-tighten the clamps, the hose clamps. Alright, now that we've got all 3 hose clamps tightened up, we can go ahead and reinstall the radiator guard. Alright, now that we've got the radiator mounting bolts with the radiator guard tightened up, all the hose clamps tightened up, go ahead and reconnect your vent line. Go ahead and make sure that your bottom water pump bolt is tight. Now we're going to go ahead and refill the coolant. Now that your coolant is refilled, go ahead and reinstall your radiator cap. Alright, the next step here, now that you've got everything else on, is to install your wiring harness, which actually is a separate part number. So remove it from the bag. And it's very simple. You're going to go ahead and take this end, the plastic, the white plastic end, you're going to plug it into the fan. It only goes on one way. Now keep in mind your gas tank is going to go here, so you're going to find a way to route this back to your battery with the fused relay here in a manner that will keep it away from any harm. So what I'm going to do is remove these rubber frame bands and put it in this way. Route it under the frame here, through the frame, next to the CDI box. Alright, so the last step here, once you've got your wiring harness back here, is here's your battery. The cover here you're going to take off of your red terminal. You're going to go ahead and remove the screw that holds that terminal down to the battery. Go ahead and rotate your red terminal here so it's kind of arched facing down. Go ahead and put the screw of the other red terminal through it. Go ahead and tighten that down. ahead and put the black cover back over the red here. Go ahead and remove your ground terminal bolt. Go ahead and install. Same way. Get that tightened down. Go ahead and hide your relay down here. Alright, now that we've got everything wired up, hooked up to the battery, we're going to go ahead and make sure that the fan works before we put everything else back together. Currently it's showing 98 degrees, which sounds about right. You're going to go ahead and hold the mode button here. It's currently showing Fahrenheit. You can switch between Fahrenheit, Celsius. I'm going to leave it on Fahrenheit, since I don't know a thing about Celsius. And then it'll go to 150 and you can set what temperature you want it to come on at. So I'm going to set 175. I'm going to just hold it down. In fact, I want to test it to make sure it works. So you let it go to 175, and there you go. So it's currently 99 degrees. The fan will automatically come on at 175 degrees. Alright, so now we're going to get everything put back together. First thing we're doing here is reinstalling the gas tank. Once we've got our plastic lined back up, go ahead and use our T30 here to reinsert the center bolt. Get that snug down. Reinsert our vent tube onto the frame. Reinsert our fuel line back on the petcock. Go ahead and reinsert our 4 bolts here into the radiator guard. Last step here, we're going to go ahead and reinstall our seat. Insert the longer of the 2 bolts that came out of the seat here on the driver's side. Alright guys, that concludes the install of the KTM Trail Tech fan on my 2019 KTM 300XC. Thanks for watching.